What does it take to get beyond the damage of words? I'm Katrina Collier. Join me each week as I explore what it takes to step into a happier future. My guests are sharing their stories of when they realised that they needed help and what it took to take that first step, so that you leave inspired and maybe even start on your own path to self-love, care, compassion, and of course happiness. So without further ado, let's hear their stories. Tim Roberts, welcome to Beyond the Damage of Words podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you. One, because you're one of my favourite humans because of the fact we don't actually speak. We just send signs back and forth to each other of obnoxious signs that people have written. And it's just like, I don't even remember why we started doing that, but it makes my day every time there's a message from Tim with an obnoxious sign.
Yeah, it's just like every time I see a laminated sign, I think of Katrina. Try and get a picture of it and send it to you.
I feel quite special because they're usually in bathrooms or something, aren't they? Saying, don't flush paper down.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So thank you for joining me. Because I know you've been on quite a journey, and we're going to talk about that. But like, what made you start the healing process? As you know, here we just get on with it. So
yeah, I like
here
it.
we
Let's
go.
get straight into it. What made me start the healing process? I describe it as an equation for me, which was anxiety plus stress equals severe depression. That was the moment for me. The big, I guess, catalyst within that, because I'd had anxiety for a number of years. I'd always suffered with stress. I think I'd had depression for a long time and I'd just never vocalised it. I'd never asked somebody. The big thing for me is that in 2018, I would call it my annus mirabilis. Is that the right word? It was a horrible year, basically.
Ooh.
I was in this complete cycle.
What was it called?
Annus mirabilis. I'm trying to be clever and say like the Latin title for it, but I might be getting that completely wrong. But so yeah, in that year, I was in this cycle, and ultimately, what that was leading me to was suicidal thoughts. So for me, I was every day carrying this round of, I wanted to die, I wanted to kill myself, I wasn't good enough, people are better off without me, I've made a mess of my life, and it was hard because that's not true. I'm happily married. I've got 2 brilliant kids. At the time, I was in good employment. You know, and that added to that equation of that severe depression, because I was in that cycle of asking, why me? I must be so stupid. I've got all these things. There's other people worse off than me, and I'm suffering from this. And so that was the moment, really. And the big reason for that is I don't know why. I mean, this was in a cycle where, you know, I was stood on a train platform thinking, you know, when that announcement gets made, this train does not stop at this platform, my head then would say, well, I could jump under that train. This is an opportunity. I'd be in a supermarket or a chemist, even with my kids, thinking I could buy a load of strong painkillers, cocodamol, whatever it might be. And I didn't want to feel like this, yet that's what was going on. You know, I famously sat in work and wrote down on a Post-it note how I could kill myself, the lies I could tell to my wife so I didn't come home for a certain amount of time, where I could go, the alcohol, the pill, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know why a particular day, which was a bad day, I had this thought of, this is bullshit. I don't want to die. I have so much to live for. I have so much to be grateful for. I want to go home and I want to stop being the miserable sod around my wife and kids. You know, I was spending days in bed, the typical depressive, really, which I think was a culmination of, like I say,
What does it feel like? What does it feel like? Is it? I sort of think of it as like, if you were to describe it, is it like a black tar that's almost? That's how I always think of it. Not that I can't say I've ever had it, actually, surprisingly.
I think black tar is a good way. Yeah, it feels like you're stuck. It feels like, even though you're in this moment where there might be a lot of vibrant colours and a lot of people around you, you feel frozen. You feel like you're not really there in your own head. And even in a conversation with somebody, I remember I went to one of my cousin's weddings that summer before I decided to get help. And I remember back in the days when I used to smoke, and I was with my wife and kids, and my mum and dad, and all my family there, and everything. You know, my uncle Nobed was there, and all the wonderful people in my family as well were there. And I went outside for a cigarette, and I was outside on my own at the hotel. I think I'd made it work that way. People were probably eating the meal, and I excused myself. And I remember just being stood outside and thinking, I'm here, but I'm not. This is a great day. What's wrong with me? And that feeling of like,
Mm.
I've got to go back inside now and pretend that I'm okay. And, it was that. And that was exhausting. I mean, anybody listening to this who's
It
been
is.
through anything where you're pretending that you're okay, oh my God, it is exhausting.
Masks.
Yeah.
Keeping masks up is
Yeah,
exhausting.
and the black tar, the darkness, the heaviness. I'd wake up some mornings and just be like, I just don't want to get out of bed because I just feel weighed down with this. So that was the trigger when I got to that moment. And like I say, just luckily, I'm very, very lucky. I don't know where
Mm.
that thought came from in that moment. I do now. I now know it was my emotional
Mm.
intelligence. Yet in that moment, it just came from somewhere. And luckily,
Mm.
that led me down the, as we were talking before, I took the step.
So,
That's what made me take the step, was that thought of, this
yeah.
is bullshit.
No,
I don't want to feel like this.
as my as anyone who's going to read my memoir is going to discover, my mother's first husband did suicide and left my oldest
Okay.
brother and sister. And then
Yeah.
my mother married my father, who never really loved her as her first husband did, and then had my brother and I. And I always say I grew up in the ripple of a suicide. So,
Yeah.
on behalf of everybody in your ripple, thank you for
Oh,
taking the
thank
step
you.
instead, and also for being here now and sharing this for someone who hears it and goes, "Gosh, I feel like that." That
Yeah.
I just don't. That's all I ever think when I hear that somebody has suicided. Is I just think of that ripple. I wasn't even direct descendant. It wasn't my father, and it
Yeah.
massively impacted all of us. So, thank you for not doing that. Thank you for
Thank you,
taking. So, what was it
Katrina.
like when you got to that moment and you went, "Okay, I got to call, got to phone a friend," um, because
Yeah.
I didn't do that. Remember, so I'm always like, I had those years where I just didn't. So I'm always curious, what made you do it, and how did it feel when you did?
Um, what made me do it was that realization. So the
Mm.
first thing I did was I wrote a letter um,
Yep.
to myself. I literally sat
Yeah.
in work. I went, I'm just going downstairs to do something, and sat there and wrote a letter. And then I sent it to my wife. And my wife knew I wasn't right. She'd
Mm.
mentioned before, she'd actually asked me in the months building up to this, do you think you might have depression? And of course, that's the, no, I'm fine. I'm just having a bad, I'm in a bad mood, or work shit, or, whatever
Yeah.
excuse I used.
There's too
And
much, there's something around that word, isn't there? You'd go into denial. No, I don't wanna own
yeah,
that word,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, that's not me. You fight it, and I mean, I actually emailed it to my wife, God bless her, while she was in work. Now that might sound like a quite selfish thing to do, yet in that moment, and me being the person that I am,
Mm.
if I've got an idea, I get on and do it. So what I didn't want to
Yes.
do was kind of carry that around with me all day, or message my wife and say, I really need to talk to you tonight. I mean, plus we've got 2 kids, so it's also hard that you get home from
Yeah.
work. The kids don't understand that mum and dad need to talk about something. They want to
Mm.
show you a Barbie doll or talk to you about whatever it might be. So,
Yeah.
so for me, it was that, right, send. And my wife
Mm.
was so understanding. She messaged me and, she upset and said, why don't we just both go home from work? And I said, no, I want to see the day out. And it went from there. We got home and my wife encouraged me, shall we say, to go and see a GP, which
Yeah.
it it worked, not in the way the GP suggested, because they wanted me to go on antidepressants. I was adamant I wasn't doing that. Now, look, antidepressants work for a lot of people. I know
Good.
they're important. I was
Mm.
determined
Mm.
not to do
They
it.
also don't work for a lot of people.
Yes, and by fluke, I've had 2 operations on my
Mm.
back, and as part of the
Yeah.
pain killing process leading up to those operations,
Mm.
I was prescribed a pill that I didn't know at the time was an antidepressant. It basically gets you to sleep because it cuts the nerves off that the pain sends to your brain. So it was great at the
Right.
time, but my God, I got hangover taking those pills. I remember going into work and feeling like, and I've had
Yeah.
some hangovers from alcohol, trust me, and this was worse than any of them. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want antidepressants because they'll send me worse. So I spoke to
Yeah.
GP. They listened to me. They diagnosed me with severe depression. I told them I didn't want pills, so they referred me to some therapists and counselling. And I went through the motions with that at first, and ultimately it ended up I had 2 great conversations, and then because there's very little funding in therapy, for somebody like
Or
me,
the NHS. Yeah.
yeah, because I don't have PTSD, just for example, it's
Yeah.
very, very hard for them to help a man of a certain age who isn't really considered to have this, you know, diagnosable uh, suffering or mental health, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I guess
I
that with PTSD, there's a moment they can like,
yes,
and you said you couldn't find the moment. Well, sorry, you said that before you came on air. I should say that
no,
you
yeah,
couldn't find a moment to justify
yeah,
the. That would have made it hard
yeah.
for them.
Yeah, and I never have for that moment. I've not gone searching for it because when I
Mm.
did therapy, and I tried it with a charity, I've also paid
Yeah.
for a couple of different counsellors over the years as well. What
Mm.
I found was I didn't find the benefit of looking for the reason, and that's a lot about my personality. I'm ambitious, I'm
Yeah.
driven, so I'm future focused. So what I found
Mm.
when I was doing that, I just got frustrated because I went looking for how do I move forward from this, and all I got was questions
Yeah.
about to explore it. Why do you think you felt like that? What might have caused that? And I was a bit like,
Mm.
I want to move forward. So yeah, I mean, it all stemmed from speaking to my wife, and it is, look, this message that sometimes goes out there about mental health, where right, this campaign's encouraging you just to speak to somebody. It's so important that people take notice of that because that's
Yeah.
what saved me. That was the first thing that made me go, this
So
is
you did.
okay to talk about.
Yeah. And you did talk to someone. You just chose a
Yeah,
path forward, which is fine.
yeah,
It's funny, every time you said this, and before we came on as well, there is a book called It Didn't Start With You, which I really think that you should read because I
mm,
have a feeling it's going to really resonate because I
okay.
just, with my weird feelings I get that this isn't because you said that you can't pinpoint anything in your life that would lead you to this point. So I have a feeling you'll find it's in the genetics. It's a really fascinating book
Yes,
anyway.
it
So
could be.
just have a read.
Members of my close family have also suffered with depression and mental health
Yeah.
issues, challenges, definitely
There's a lot
anxiety.
of
So it,
generational trauma coming down as well. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it could be, and it. Um, I
So,
mean, whether it goes back to I was bullied as a kid, I don't know. It could be something like that. For me, it was about I've got to move forward because I didn't want
yeah,
to. I didn't want to kind of almost go, okay, let's stop everything and find out what this is. And look, that works for some people. It's really, really important that
absolutely.
I'm talking about what works for me. I
Yeah.
felt that there was power in I can take control. I can choose how to respond to this. That one of the things I
Mm.
say to people when I talk about my mental health is my emotional intelligence saved my life. And what I did through
Yeah.
speaking to my wife first, and then by speaking to my best friend, and all my best mate did was listen to me.
Mm.
That's all he did. I speak to him about it now, and he's like, "I didn't do anything." I'm like, "You listened to me, mate. That's all I needed," and that
Did he listen
gave
without
me
judgment as well?
yes, yeah. That's really important. Actually, that's what he did was he listened without judgment, and from then on,
Mm.
and still to this day, he'd check in with me, and that gave me the confidence to then go and speak to some other close friends and they listened without judgment. They said, it's okay, and that gave me the courage to then go and speak at events about it and
Mm.
share my story. And
Yeah.
the big thing for me was that piece around I can choose how to respond to my thoughts and feelings. So even in the darkest days,
Mhm.
I could choose to go, okay, this is what would help me right now. This is what would help me right now. And that allowed me to
Mm.
take control and say, actually, I don't need to sit and take this. I can make
Mm.
my world be what I want my world to be. There was great power
Yeah.
that came from it. And this is what, I mean,
It's
what we're,
interesting. Y
go on, sorry.
Sorry.
No,
I
go on. You
interrupted
go.
you, of
You
course.
go. It's all
I'm really
right.
good at that. No, no, because it's funny because we went different paths, but both of the paths involved having to recognize what you were saying to yourself, basically, like, what's
Yes.
going on in the head. And
Yeah.
I've had times where I've had to consciously go, "Why are you thinking that? Stop it." Like, and I would do
Yeah.
something like think about my dog. I would have a specific thing that I would take me into the present and into something really lovely instead
Yeah.
of whatever it was. And you're doing a similar thing. You've just worked out almost how to do it on your own, it
Yes.
sounds like.
Yes, a lot of that. A lot of it came from the books that I read, the work that I do. So, as a leadership
Mm,
coach and specialising in emotional intelligence,
mm,
I had an understanding of it. I'm an
yeah.
NLP practitioner, so I had an understanding of it.
Mhm,
And yes, through other people's help. So, coaching's helped me a great deal. I have an
yeah.
unbelievable coach who gives me the chance to come up with little strategies and gives me the space to think about it and the space to challenge myself to talk things through. And to be okay
Mm,
that I'll have bad days. I think that's the big thing now. 5 years on from that moment, uh,
mm,
those bad days are less and less. The last 5 years haven't been all blue skies and sunshine. I've had some really challenging times. Yet
mm,
I'm now able to respond better. I'm now able to recognise it and not allow it to get over. The things you said there, actually, there's a lot of things that it can be simple things to me, like, right, I know I'm in a bit of a mess at the moment, so for an hour, just go listen to music and read a book, go
mm,
for a walk. Sometimes it might be just have a glass of wine with your wife and chill out. I'm not suggesting
mhm,
I don't self medicate. Like alcohol isn't the answer,
mm.
but sometimes it is. Do you know what? I just need to sit here, have a glass of wine, and just tell you a bit of shit. And just
Yeah,
relax and
but
kind of
actually
throw
it's
it
the
all out.
talking,
Yeah,
isn't it? You're still talking and she's still
yes,
listening, and
yeah,
it's
and
yeah,
it's that bit of almost going.
the
So the wine
connection.
is the bit of this doesn't need to be a serious conversation. I just need to
Mm,
say that I'm having a bit of struggle at the moment, and so
mhm.
it could be things like that. It could
Has
be
it
go out with my
has
mate.
it
It could
helped your
be
relationship? Has it have you grown closer because you're now much more open and honest rather than trying to keep that
yeah,
mask up?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it. The big thing that's helped is my awareness. So my wife can kind of say, all right, you having a bad day, or do you just want to go and chill out? And then I don't take offence at that because I know what she's trying to do is help me. I know
Yeah.
that she might just make subtle hints sometimes. So yeah, definitely, and it allows
Mm,
us when we might have a difficult thing to talk about. I don't
mm,
know, our parents aren't getting any younger, kids are getting older, whatever it might be.
mm,
We're
mm.
much able to just talk about it quickly and move on. I think that's probably the thing that it's helped in our relationship. It doesn't
Yeah.
fester. Sometimes I have to be the one that says, "Oh, sorry, I'm being a dickhead here. Let's just stop. Let's just chill out." And I think that's the
Yeah.
big thing it's helps with is the awareness. Whereas in the past, I think before I heard the words from a GP, "You've got severe depression," I was probably seeking an excuse or blaming other things, like we do, blaming
Mhm.
work and it's other people's fault and this isn't fair and trying to look for a way out. The reality is, I was just in that horrendous cycle of depression and fighting it. Whereas when I got it
Yeah.
out in the open, it's okay. That's what it is. It's okay that, and now a big thing for me is I can see the warning signs. So I know that
Mhm.
I can see in my past I was building up to it. So that might have been when I got myself run down. I tried to do too much, both
Yeah.
socializing and in work, or trying to do too much for the kids, trying
Mm,
to do too much for the people, thinking I could do everything. And then eventually
mm.
it cuts you down, doesn't it? It just stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
So I can see that
So
now and I'll say no to
what
things
are some
better
of those
now.
signs? Is it just exhaustion, or is it when you're not swimming in the morning, or like what are the
Yeah.
signs? What do you
Yeah.
sense
So
that it's
it can
coming?
be exhaustion. It can be Um, the first signs you might be getting a bit of an illness or a cough or a sore throat.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
bit of a warning sign for me because in the past I've kind of thought, oh, I'll be
Yeah.
all right, and then go away for work for a week, driving up and down the country, and then come home and spend 2 nights out with my friends or my
Mm.
wife, and then suddenly on the Sunday and Monday you're half dead. So it's little things
Yeah.
like that. It's the motivation. If I'm not feeling that
Mhm.
motivated, then okay, check in why. And the check in for me
Mhm.
there is what's the reality of this situation? Am I not motivated because I'm knackered from the last 2 weeks or whatever it might be, or I'm
Mhm.
overwhelmed? Or is the reality I'm not that motivated because the work I'm doing this week isn't at 100% of fulfillment for me? I might be at home for a couple of
Yes.
days without any calls, or I might be
Mm.
doing a bit of work that just doesn't really excite me, kind
Admin.
of thing.
Yeah.
That. So it's checking in on
Yeah, the
that.
quarterly VAT. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes I know as well. For me, there's
I
a
know what you
sign
mean.
of
Mm.
if I've got something big on the horizon, like building up to my first book being
Yeah.
published last year. Oh my god, how my publisher didn't
Yeah.
kill me, I don't know. How my wife didn't kill me. And I was the same actually when I was turning 40, coincidentally in 2018. Although if anybody asks, I'm 39. because that was on the
Well, I'm still older
horizon.
than you, even with that math, so
But yeah, when I've got something big on the horizon that's really important to me, I know
yeah.
that starts the anticipation of it starts to manifest
Mm,
itself. And if something then happens, like a client changes a date, or my wife starts asking me about things that I'm thinking that's not
mm.
important right now, it triggers the stress. So there's that, and trying to build up to
Interesting.
that is that bit of, okay, I know I've got this really, so it's happening to me at the moment. I've got a really, really big program starting in November with a new client, a big coaching program,
Mhm,
and it's just in the back of my mind. So I have to just
mhm.
remind myself, it's okay. You've got that day booked in
Yeah.
to sort everything out. You've got a call with a client. November will happen.
Mm.
Enjoy what's coming between then and
Yeah.
now. Take the time now
I
to
also
relax, conserve energy before you hell for
yeah,
leather.
exactly, and also, a few things that I do around that as well is, like, I'll often panic, like, "Oh my god, I haven't got enough time." It's like, "Well, hang on. You had enough time that time, and remember when you put that presentation together and
Yes.
it only took an hour and you thought it'd take all day?" Like, and I Michelle Zeller used to call it evidence to the contrary, and it's like telling the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
inner voice, "Well, here's some evidence to the contrary," and it's like, "Calm down."
Yeah.
Kinda, and it still, like, brings you back to the moment again, and, like, you're just panicking, and you
Yeah.
always have enough time, and you always do a great job, and everyone's,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah. And it's,
everyone's been happy with your work, and it's just, like, reminding it's
yeah.
almost having a list so that when you know you're gonna
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
through that as it gets closer and panic and go, "Yeah, I will always have enough time, and actually I am ready," and
Yeah. Yeah. That,
it's yeah,
I
I'm sure your
like that
coach gives
actually.
you these.
It's the evidence piece. I think is a great way of looking at it. I always
Mm,
think about it. So I have a concept called your bullshit factory. And that's come from
yeah,
my experiences with mental health, and it comes from working with leaders and everything else that I
mhm,
see happening. So for me, it's that moving from bullshit to truth. So just using that as an example there, you're
yes,
right. That for me, that thing on the horizon in
yeah,
November, the evidence is I've done that before. The client wants me to
yeah,
do it. I know I've got time. And
yeah,
actually, what I really know is those 2 days will be two of the best days of this year because I'm really excited to work with this client.
mm,
I've been building up to it. We've been talking about it for probably 2 years. We get on brilliantly. They want
wow,
me because the way I do things. So yeah, I think that's a nice thing to look at, is moving from that
mm.
bullshit to truth. And I think something that is a bit
Using your
similar to
own
that.
tools there, Tim.
Yes, yeah. Well, take your own advice, isn't it? A great friend of mine, Danny Seals, said that to me years ago. Tim,
Yeah,
take your own. I was stressing out about this conference I was speaking at, and he said to me, Tim, take your
mm,
own advice, and that's a big thing for me. Is
yeah,
actually almost stopping and going, right. If my mate came to me, or if a client came
mm,
to me and said, "This is what I'm thinking," either what advice
yeah,
would I give them, or what coaching questions would I ask them, and flip it
exactly,
back round to me. And
yeah.
I think a big thing I've learned.
However, that it is hard, and this is
Oh,
why
it
you have a
is.
coach and I have a coach, because you want them
Yes.
to listen and repeat back to you, "Do you know you're saying this?" through that
Yeah.
entire and you're like, "Really?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes
That
and no.
importance of somebody
It's
to hold the mirror up is massive. Again,
yeah.
that's what I found more beneficial to me, rather than the looking for a reason or the catalyst,
Mm,
in the past.
yeah,
Actually holding the mirror up to say, Tim, this is what you've said you want. This is what you want to achieve. And this is how you're coming across. That's
yeah,
absolutely invaluable to me. Now, that is a coaching
mm,
process for me, definitely. I have
yeah, yeah,
friends and mentors who would also, hold me accountable to that. And,
mm,
for me, there's two big things I think I'd add as well that just massively helped me. One is the work that I do. I could
mhm,
see in that year when I took that step to get that help, what I could see in that moment was I'd got to that point where I loved what I do. I'm really passionate about it. I really
yeah,
believe in it. I'd worked my arse off to get to the
mhm,
point where internally I could say, yeah, I'm all right at this. I'm pretty good. I've
yeah,
got results to demonstrate of what I do helps people, and I've got results to prove what
yeah,
I've done it with myself as a leader, for example. So what
mm,
I realized is I needed freedom. I couldn't have people
mhm,
stopping me, or organizational cultures getting in the way, because I'm someone who gives a
mhm,
shit. I really care about
yeah,
people and helping them, and I care about myself and wanting to be happy.
mm,
Basically, I don't think that's selfish. Why wouldn't I want to be happy? So I throw myself into my
It's
work.
not a dress rehearsal, is it?
No,
You know?
I know.
Let's
So
enjoy it.
Yeah, so I've put everything into the work that I do, particularly the way I do it in terms of the authenticity piece and breaking the
Yeah.
mold. So, sorry to use the title on my book. And then the second bit for me
No,
that I
that's okay.
learned is I'm really values driven. It's really, really important to me. A lot of
Yeah.
that comes from my understanding of NLP because the reality is we're all actually values driven. It just depends on
Mm.
your level of awareness and understanding of it that
Yeah.
heightens
And
how much value you put on it, pardon the pun.
and are they your values or put on values? So I
Yes.
did much as he's quite polarizing, Dr. John DeMartini's values. So I know mine from that, which oh my goodness. For some reason Banjo has taken to being a
I know. I
very
love that your
irritating
dog's in the
through this
background. I
podcast.
love it.
He's currently, yeah, I don't know if you've heard him. It's like I'm trying to quieten him down. I think he
He
gets
wants to get
jealous
in
at
on
about
it.
25-minute mark of each podcast recording. It's so bad. But if I lock him out, you'll hear him crying through the door, so I can't win. But anyway, yeah. So DeMartini's values factor is
Yes.
absolutely awesome as well for that, getting your real values as opposed to the put on
Yeah.
ones. So you work
Yeah. And
those
that
out, and life
was
changes, doesn't it?
massive. And I think I always knew I was very values driven. And this
Mm.
isn't from a point of view of let's take them all high ground. Like I said, and like the work you're talking about there, it was
No.
that understanding of when I am really happy and confident, it's because I'm surrounded by people
Yeah.
who
Mm.
respect my values and I'm able to live up to my values without it being challenged or dismissed. Conversely, when I'm really
Yeah.
negative and down, I'm surrounded by people who
Mm.
don't respect those values and don't live up to their own values. So the organization I was
Yeah.
in 2018 is just a perfect demonstration of lack of integrity. And integrity is
Mm.
off the scale important to me. If
Important
you
for
say you're
you.
going to do something, do it. It's really, really
Yeah.
important to me. So when I'm surrounded by people who don't do that, who take the piss,
Mm.
basically, I can't handle that. It makes it very hard. So I've learned
No,
that
I'm with you.
it's really important to me. But then what I've learned, a big, big help to me, is having the confidence. And this was a breakthrough for me because I've
Yeah.
now switched this. So I'd come away from experiences that were negative for me and working with people or just engaging with people that conflicted with my values. And I kind of come away and blame myself and beat myself up and think about I should have done this, I should have done that. And
Oh.
what I've learned is to be able to flip that now and recognize
Mhm.
actually their attitudes and behaviors reflect on them. All I can
Yes.
do is choose to live up to what I stand for and choose in
Mm.
response my attitudes and behaviors to be the ones that
Mhm.
I can walk away from that situation and go, that's okay. Dan might have behaved this way. I'm happy
Mhm.
that my attitude and behaviors were right for me and live up to what I
Yeah.
stand for. And if that means I walk away
Yeah.
and I don't know who Dan is, by the way, and mine and Dan's
Yeah.
relationship is
I'm sure he's
broken,
lovely.
I'm sure he is. I'm all right with that. Whereas years ago I
Yeah.
was probably
And
seeking Dan's approval or seeking validation, whereas
yes.
the
Yeah.
massive twist, the shift for me through coaching is actually I can't impose my values on other people. All I can do
No,
is
you cannot.
choose to respond based on my own values, and then I can go to bed at
Yeah.
night. I can wake up tomorrow and go, even if I lose that work with that client, am I happy? My attitudes and behaviors
Yeah,
align
that's
to what I
okay.
stand for. Move on.
Yeah.
And the power of
The
that
first
for
time
me is
is
massive.
huge, yes.
Yeah.
The first time I fired a client. Oh, so
Yeah.
liberating. When you realize, like, this isn't what I wanna be doing, so I'm not lighting
Yeah.
up, and they're
Yeah.
disrespecting me. They're not hitting, my values and that sort of thing. But I found, I mean, it was interesting reading his book, but, so many, I mean, these won't shock you. It's about speaking. It's about being heard. It's about building a community.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
about fun. It's about freedom with a dollop of authenticity, of course. And it's like, if I do those 5 things, I am so happy. But
Yes.
I think it's what I've seen you do is what I've done over the 12 years. I took a leap of faith and started my business and then started healing. In retrospect, I would have healed and then started my business, just saying. But, but might have been a bit easier. But, throwing myself in the deep end. But it sounds like you've gone from that actually being unsure and full of self-doubt and taking responsibility for stuff that wasn't yours. You've moved into the I like what I'm doing. I'm liking myself doing this. And you're
Yes.
starting to like yourself and therefore attract clients that really respect that. And then you're doing this exciting work. So it's,
Yes.
you've had quite a shift there.
Massively. Yeah. Thank you, actually. I've probably never stopped to think about that, actually. Yeah, I know that today the work I'm doing that brings me so much joy, it truly is. I'm not a workaholic or anything like that. To me, that going in a room and I either as a speaker on stage or running team coaching sessions or working one-to-one as an exec coach, I just love it. I absolutely buzz off it. And I found that that's such a big part of shifting away from that depression. Now,
Yeah.
a way for me overcoming my depression is I accept I will have it for the rest of my life. And that's because I don't want it to surprise me at some point, and also to keep me motivated that this is an ongoing battle. I'll have it for the rest of my life. And that's okay. I'm all right with that. Because what that does is
Or
motivate me to
maybe
keep developing.
maybe it's a challenge, less of a battle.
Yeah.
Because that sounds less
Yeah.
exhausting. But it's a signal to you that you're not doing the things that light you up. Because actually it
Yes.
happened, even though you were doing the work in a place where you weren't respected. There wasn't
Yeah.
integrity, your high
Yes.
values. So actually maybe it's just whoa, I'm starting to feel this. Well, what piece isn't sitting right in what I'm
Yes.
doing? What's not in my value set? What's going on
Yeah.
here? It
Yeah, you're
sounds
right.
like
It's
you've got a
that
nice little flag to go,
awareness.
hello, I'm just letting you know I'm here. What's not right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the red flare going up. And there's also a
Little
bit of me with that in terms of me saying,
Tim.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
back
it
to
is. It's
signs again.
like hitting me on the back of the head kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the other reason why I've said to myself, it's okay that I'll have depression for the rest of my life is because when I first beat it, I'll do that in inverted commas. I
Yeah.
then got complacent, and I told myself, "That's it. I'm all right now." I probably had, I don't know, 3 or 6 months without any really really bad episodes, and then when it
Yeah.
came back, oh wow, was that hard? That was like everything times 10 that I'd experienced before for a shorter period. So and a part of that was me going, yeah, why have I been such an idiot? Of course I haven't beaten it. It's always going to come back. What I have to do is be consistent in the habits that help me, the exercising, the meditating,
Yeah.
doing the work that I love doing, living up to what I stand for, spending the time with people who I love and bring me joy, doing the
Yeah.
things that I love doing and bring me
Okay.
joy.
I have to ask, Tim Roberts, I can't imagine you meditating. Did it take a while for you to get to do that? Or is your swimming meditation?
No, it's mindfulness. No, do you know what?
So
I
you
took to
can
it. Oh
So
God,
how
yeah,
was
I
it
took
just
to it
quickly, 'cause
so
we've run
well.
over. I normally do 30 minutes and we've already run over, but how was it? Were you able to find stillness? Like, was that
Yes,
easy for you to do that? I'm
yeah.
impressed
I
'cause
love I
you're
love
high energy to
mindfulness.
me.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I got introduced it through my NLP through the wonderful Jimmy
Yeah.
Petrucci,
Yeah.
and typical of me, like I said before, I got an idea, ran with it, went and got qualified in it, read every bloody book on it, signed up to
Yeah.
Headspace, and I love it.
Yeah.
And now
Oh, good.
I can do it. I always joke that I can do it on a train. I sometimes do it, I stop in a car park when I'm about to go into work. I'll do it in there. I'll do it in the toilets for
5-10
2
minutes.
minutes. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
my
There you
practice
go.
is 10 minutes a day, and then I do it when I need it.
Yeah.
So I did probably 1 minute before I joined this podcast because it's just that stillness. Maybe like you say,
Still
because I have
breathing.
high energy, maybe that allows me that stopping, that stillness allows me to put the high energy into the right place. Maybe before I was
Yeah.
doing mindfulness, and I learned when I was in those really bad depressive moments, the mindfulness. Okay, some days it didn't work but that's just because it was so intense and nothing was going to work
Yeah.
other than getting through the
Yeah.
day. So yeah, I absolutely love mindfulness. I recommend it to everybody, to my
Oh,
friends.
that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge
Yeah.
paid
No,
up
it's just,
member of
it
it.
took me it took me ages to be able to sit still and meditate. It was really and now, of course,
Yeah,
it's like a given, it's something that I do quite a lot. So, but I also, I just do it walking banjo as well. Like it's that, like let
yeah.
the mind wander and have no judgment of it. And I get all
Yes,
my best ideas and that kind of thing.
yeah.
Now, If people wish to get in touch with Tim Roberts, and obviously
Yeah.
mention that they heard you here on the podcast so that you get excited. Where's the best place? Is it the old LinkedIn? You have a website? What's
Yeah, the
easiest?
best place would be LinkedIn. So I'm Tim Roberts.
Mhm.
So my coaching company is called Enthuse Coaching. So you could go to my website, enthesecoaching.com. But yeah, the
Yeah.
best place,
I will
follow
link,
me,
of course.
connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, the book is available in all good bookstores, at Amazon,
And
Waterstones,
it's
which
called
is
again,
called
just in case
Break the Mold.
they missed it.
Break the
I
Mold
know, because you
Volume
said it
1.
there. You just
Yeah.
whoosh bits in the middle there. So Break the Mold Volume 1. Oh, that means there's a
Yes.
Volume 2. Mm.
Yeah, funnily enough, actually, just by pure twist of timing, this weekend I'm taking myself off to a hotel room in Birmingham for 4 days
Ah.
to start the writing process in earnest. So I've got all my ideas, I've got the
Um,
structure, because I found when I wrote the first book, and again, maybe this is around the
Yep.
everything we've been talking about. Really, I found I had to just disappear
Mm.
for a few days because I couldn't
Yeah.
do an hour here, an hour there, and
Mm.
maybe the writing is also a bit of meditation for me, because when I'm in that zone of
Oh,
writing and I've got music on,
lovely.
oh my god, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, by
Oh, I
pure
can't.
twist
I
of
have to be in
timing,
silence. Oh,
starting later this week. Yeah, so
amazing.
yeah,
It's coming.
yes, definitely.
Exciting. I cannot write with music on. I'm impressed you can. I have to have
Really?
silence.
Oh no,
No
I mean
dog
I'm
crying
obsessed with
either.
music. It's obviously in my
It
book I
helps you.
use a lot of lyrics, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
music is the life for
Amazing.
me. It's just
You will
everything. Yeah,
find the second one easier. The first book is the hardest. I found writing the memoir after having written one, it's like, I know I can do it now. So it's like
yeah,
the words flow more easily. Or I don't, if it's a bit's not working, I just go and start something else. And then I come back to the bit that wasn't working
yeah.
and figure it all out. It's like a puzzle, isn't it? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right.
Exciting.
I
Oh,
hope you're
I look
right. I
forward to that.
believe you. So yeah.
I sense I might be getting a call on Sunday. You liar.
Yeah, on Sunday morning, going,
There'll be
I've been
some
up all night. You
signs.
said this was easy.
And it'll be like 6 a.m. or something horrible. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Thank you so, so
Thank you.
much for
Always a
joining
pleasure,
me here.
Katrina. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Damage of Words. How brave, how vulnerable. All to inspire listeners like you to take a step or inspire others to take a step. Imagine what healing we could create if we normalize this conversation. So please pass this on and of course subscribe so we can do just that. Until next time, thank you.